Pennsylvania, that's an interesting way of saying Pennsylvania. The Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. And what a good champion he was.
Heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes.
There he is, then Larry Holmes beat Ken Norton. If you remember, Ken Norton was actually presented with the WBC title without fighting for it.
Hi, gentlemen.
Way back in '78. Lost it in his first defence to Larry Holmes.
Okay, a nice clean fight. Shake hands and come out.
Larry Holmes, of course, then added the IBF version with a 12th round stoppage of James Bone Crusher Smith. That was November of '84. And just 3 fights ago, Holmes mixed it with Evander Holyfield, lost on points over 12 for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Put up a good performance. And of course that was hot on the heels of that upset win over Ray Mercer. Mercer, young, fresh, hard hitting, was expected to dispatch Holmes, but Holmes kidded him, calmed him, and walked away with a points win. And Holmes out of the ring for 3 years, having been bashed by Mike Tyson in 4. Prior to that, of course, he was out of the ring for 2 years, having lost, I thought, controversially to Michael Spinks back-to-back on points over 15 rounds for the IBF title. Larry Holmes, these days, going through the motions, picking up good paydays for fighting bums. No offence, of course, to any of his opponents. It really has been through rather lean spell, Larry Holmes. And of course trying to cash in and get himself another crack at either Lennox Lewis or Riddick Bowe, and I dare say that's going to be possible. So the men that Holmes has mixed it with, quite incredible. Ernie Shavers, Ken Norton I mentioned before, Alfredo Evangelista, the Spaniard who used to be European champion, Mike Weaver, former champion. And of course, he stopped Muhammad Ali in 11 rounds back in 1980. Trevor Berbick, Leon Spinks. Spinks beat him 3, if you remember. Jerry Cooney, of course, that was a good one. 13 rounds before he dispatched Cooney back in June of '82. Another European champion, Lucien Rodriguez, beaten on points over 12. That was followed by a win over Tim Witherspoon. And then Marvis Frazier bashed in around Carl the Truth Williams. And Williams looked very good against Holmes, actually made his name losing to Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes has learned to play with men like Lakusta. Lakusta probably not too dissimilar to Rocky Papelli, the last man that Holmes mixed it with. So Lakusta's also been in good company. He also boxed Trevor Berbick, which I mentioned before. Stefan Tangstedt, former European champion from Denmark. Frank Bruno, of course, lost in 2 rounds back in September of '84 in London. Also Willie DeWitt, Rodney Frazier, Michael Dokes. Dokes took 7 rounds to stop Lakusta back in '88. Holmes taking the opening round quite clearly. This was scheduled for 10. Also Lakusta beaten in a single round by Donovan Razor Ruddock. Tommy Morrison could only outpoint Lakusta over 6 rounds in December of '89. Ken is seconded by his brother Barry. And of course Lakusta, one of the comeback opponents for George Foreman. Foreman stopped him in 3, but not before he'd been very badly wobbled by a big looping right hand by Lakusta. I think the last win that the South African Pierre Coetzer registered was one of his last wins, or I suppose 2 in about his last 10 fights was over Lakusta. Coetzer stopped Lakusta in 2 in '91. So Ken Lakusta then in the blue trunks from Edmonton, Alberta. Eastern Assassin from Eastern Pennsylvania. I've got little doubt that Larry Holmes will be facing Lennox Lewis in the future, but the problem Lennox has got is got to get past a fired up and motivated Evander Holyfield in the title defence, and then he might take on Frank Bruno in London, and that's a match I wouldn't mind seeing. In fact, Holmes against Bruno in London. But the problem is Larry Holmes asking for such big money these days. Although that would be a draw, and a very, very good name, of course, on Bruno's record, regardless of the fact that Holmes now is 43 years of age. He's still winning. Treating his fights these days almost as public workouts. It's a very stiff jab from Holmes. Always did have a beautiful left hand. Not as good these days. Of course, his ring demeanour spoiled slightly by that middle-aged spread, which none of us can avoid, I'm afraid. Just a little roll of fat there over the top of his trunks. So the Casino Magic, Bay St. Louis in Mississippi, hosting the former heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes, against Ken Lakusta, matchmaker for this one, Bo Williford, an old pal of mine. He fought a gorilla, in fact with an orangutan. Great story. Some of you, I'm sure, would have read it or heard about it, but very well worth hearing from the man himself, Bo Williford. So Larry Holmes then, sporting the taps gloves with Lakusta at the end of the second. Rocky Marciano. Don't forget that Holmes is just a whisker away from equaling Marciano's 49 unbeaten streak. When Spinks came along and upset the apple cart. And in fact, Larry Holmes has not had an awful lot of good things to say about too many fighters over the years, and that's one of his problems. He does tend to upset people. He gave Rocky Papelli a hard time as well, verbally, both in and out of the ring. And that didn't go down too well either. So Ken Lakusta then, same age as me, and I tell you something, I would not go through this kind of physical exertion at this age. I'll leave it to these big fat fellas. Of course, heavyweights can go on so much longer than the lighter weights. They don't rely on lightning reflexes and zipping around the ring. They just need to stand there and almost plod on occasion. Well, should Larry Holmes be given another title shot? I don't think so, unless he can beat someone worth beating. Of course, Ray Mercer at the time he fought Larry Holmes was considered to be a very useful fighter. He'd already knocked out Tommy Morrison, but Morrison's form really been put in perspective. So I suppose retrospectively you could say that the win over Mercer really didn't count and possibly didn't earn Holmes a shot at Holyfield at the time, but he took it. And of course, the rest is history. Think that Larry Holmes took part in 23 consecutive world heavyweight title fights. Must be very difficult for him to motivate himself against men like Tim Anderson, Eddie Gonzalez, Michael Greer, Art Card, Jamie Howe, for goodness sake. But he's kept busy. And Larry Holmes, of course, professes to be a rich man. So he's not doing it for the money. He's just doing it, I think, to just come back as rolling on to annoy the people who annoyed him over the years, I'm sure of it. And the right hand there from Lakusta got through. Never was too happy about the press coverage of his career. So now he's sticking around to make us all pay for that. Must admit, I was a big fan of Holmes's in the beginning. Very good 2-year period between 1882, and in that period he beat Ali, Berbick, Spinks, Snipes and Cooney. That was probably his best time. And that straight left of Holmes is a very unnerving, very spiteful kind of punch, thrown from the hip. So Larry Holmes then shoots from both the hip and the lip these days. It seems to be shooting more from the lip than the hip. So 3 rounds gone. Larry Holmes quite comfortably strolling his way through them. Rounds 4, 5 and 6. So a bit of damage appear on Lakusta's face as he was outboxed and outpunched by Larry Holmes for long spells. So into the 7th round then of a schedule 10 in the heavyweight division. Larry Holmes steadily dismantling Lakusta. Sorry, round 4. Of course, used to mixing with high-name company. They're complaining of a clash of heads. Referee Elmo Adolf, great name. Of course, this area of the United States, Mississippi, very strange kind of area. Lots of strange names, strange customs, strange carryings on. And the last thing that Lakusta wants to do is really to fire Holmes up by getting ambitious, because Larry Holmes, so he can be a bit spiteful, and he does go to work when he feels like it, but normally only if you provoke him. He's a bit like a sleeping dog. A big one at that. As we can see, suddenly he decides to make Lakusta pay for any liberty that he might feel like taking. When you consider Larry Holmes' record, it's absolutely superb. 56 wins, 4 losses in 60 outings. And the 4 losses, say, twice to Michael Spinks, once to Mike Tyson, once to Evander Holyfield. And there's no disgrace in that whatsoever. Ken Lakusta now fast approaching the point where he's lost as many as he's won. 41 fights for Lakusta, almost 50-50 record, 21 wins, 19 losses. then Larry Holmes walks away with another round under his belt.
Let me work on it. The only thing you said you look at the guy. Take a break this round and move, okay? You're going through it too much. Take a break and move. Do those cakewalks and everything. And you know what you hit them with is those belly shots, but we don't.
Again, that lovely left hand from Larry Holmes.
How are you feeling?
He doesn't throw too many right hands these days, but he never really needed to. Remember that one tremendous right hand that he beat Alfredo Evangelista with? He just dropped his hands, walked away, and suddenly stopped in his tracks and crashed into a mighty shot. And down went Alfredo like a sack of potatoes. Called the 7th. Swollen and marked under both eyes. And now cut around the left eye. The blood there just smeared across the side of his face. The referee taking a very close look at Lakusta.
Stop! Stop!
And ironically, the referee, they didn't stop the action to check the cut, but to instead get some tape cut off the glove that had worked itself loose.
Can you go to post the stuff, man?
Let's go.
Post the stuff with it. Can you not turn up? Let's go. You got to hold your fingers. You got to throw something.
So a bit of needed rest there for Lakusta. Larry Holmes at an age where he should be sitting in front of the fire with his feet up, still going to work, treating Lakusta almost like a punch bag with absolute contempt. And still picking up big bucks. Lakusta won't be getting anything near what Holmes is picking up. He's the man that they've packed in to see here at the Casino Magic in Mississippi. Rumour has it that Larry Holmes actually picked up about $80,000 for fighting Rocky Papelli, which is ludicrous money. But as I say, as long as he attracts the crowds and the media, i.e. television, they're going to welcome him on the shows and also pay him the money that he does desire. Of course, they're getting through with a cluster of punches. And if nothing else, he was game. Beating a tune there on the face of Lakusta with that left hand. And it was painfully one-sided by this point. Lakusta not having the skills or the imagination to do much about this. So I'd like to see Mickey Duff bring Larry Holmes over to London, just to see how he can do with a big strong man like Frank Bruno, not the washed up sorts like Lakusta. And Everett Martin and Papelli, of course. So round 7 comes to a close. And this fight now on its last legs. Bad cut on the left eye.
That's it.
Brother Barry there kicks. Bad cut on the left eye.
That's it.
And Brother Barry there calling the referee over. The doctor says, well, it's okay. But what does he know?
I'm going to call the fight. Put that press
pressure on that lower part because it's going to start swelling up even more.
And the last thing a fighter needs to do when he's got a swelling under the eye or a bruise under the eye is to blow his nose, because all the systems and tubes are linked in that area and the eye swells up instantly.
I can't go anymore. I can't see very good.
Yes, that's the problem with Lakusta. Badly cut on the left eye, swollen too, having trouble with his vision. So very sensibly, referee Elmo Adolf accepted the corner retirement as Larry Holmes once again racks up another win, this time in 7 rounds. And as I say, rather a painful one-sided beating there for Lakusta. And the crowd booing. They wanted to see Lakusta come out again for the 8th and get himself battered into submission rather than having to quit on the stool with a nasty injury. But he lives to fight another day. Or as Frank Bruno puts it, he fights to live another day, which is a rather strange way. But I think we know what he means. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this lunchtime action on Eurosport. Don't forget this evening, live on Eurosport, triple world title fights from Glasgow.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Pat
this
Clinton
bout
and
was
Paul
stopped
Weir.
at the end of the 7th round through
Don't miss it.
advice from the challenger's corner, and the winner by retirement, Larry Holmes.
Fighting bums. No offence, of course, to any of his opponents. It really has been through rather lean spell, Larry Holmes. And, of course, trying to cash in and get himself another crack at either Lennox Lewis or Riddick Bowe. And I dare say that's going to be possible. So the men that Holmes has mixed it with, quite incredible. Ernie Shavers, Ken Norton I mentioned before, Alfredo Evangelista, the Spaniard who used to be European champion, Mike Weaver, former champion, and of course he stopped Muhammad Ali in 11 rounds back in 1980. Trevor Berbick, Leon Spinks. Spinks beaten him 3, if you remember. Jerry Cooney, of course, that was a good one, 30, from a European champion from Denmark. Frank Bruno, of course, lost in 2 rounds back in September of '84 in London. So Willie DeWitt, Rodney Frazier, Michael Dokes. Dokes took 7 rounds to stop Lakusta back in '88. Holmes taking the opening round quite clearly. This was scheduled for 10. Also Lakusta beaten in a single round by Donovan Razor Ruddock. Tommy Morrison could only outpoint Lakusta over 6 rounds in December of '89. Ken is seconded by 18 rounds before he dispatched Cooney back in June of '82. Another European champion, Lucien Rodriguez, beaten on points over 12. That was followed by a win over Tim Witherspoon, and then Marvis Frazier bashed in around Carl the Truth Williams. And Williams looked very good against Holmes, actually made his name losing to Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes has learned to play with men like Lakusta. Lakusta probably not too dissimilar to Rocky Papelli, the last man that Holmes mixed it with. So Lakusta's also been in good company. He also boxed Trevor Berbick, which I mentioned before. Stefan Tangstead, points over 12 for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Put up a good performance. And of course that was hot on the heels of that upset win over Ray Mercer. Mercer, young, fresh, hard hitting, was expected to dispatch Holmes, but Holmes kidded him, conned him, and walked away with a points win. And Holmes out of the ring for 3 years, having been bashed by Mike Tyson in 4. And prior to that, of course, he was out of the ring for 2 years, having lost, I thought, controversially to Michael Spinks back-to-back on points over 15 rounds for the IBF title. Larry Holmes, these days going through the motions, picking up good paydays from Pennsylvania. That's an interesting way of saying Pennsylvania. The Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. And what a good champion he was.
Heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes.
There he is then, Larry Holmes. Beat Ken Norton. If you remember, Ken Norton was actually presented with the WBC title without fighting for it.
Hi, gentlemen.
Way
You'll
back
receive
in
your instructions in the
78.
dressing room. Look
Lost
at
it in his
me.
first
I want a
defence
good
to
fight
Larry
all
Holmes.
night long. Okay, a nice clean fight. Shake hands and come
Larry
out.
Holmes, of course, then added the IBF version with a 12th round stoppage of James Bone Crusher Smith. That was November of '84. And just 3 fights ago, Holmes mixed it with Evander Holyfield, lost on points.